terrorist act ever in New South Wales. I want to make sure as a police force we ensure that community safety is the priority. Today's decision to extend that declaration is about ensuring community safety. Happy to take questions, ladies and gents. Sorry, I'll just go one at a time.
You've extended the protest ban, but exempted Hyde Park, the location for the so-called Invasion Day rallies every year, and the location that organised the Painting rally this year. Why have you extended the protest ban but allowed this mass rally to go ahead?
So again, it's about getting the balance right between community safety and a right to protest. The protest that is planned by the First Nations community on Australia Day will be managed down through College Street and out of southern Sydney. I'm satisfied that that reduces the risk to the community. On Australia Day, I expect that we'll have tens of thousands of community members, mums and dads, boys and girls wanting to come into the CBD. This is about ensuring that we enable people to protest, enable free speech, but make sure that the community remains safe.
So, Commissioner, what makes this protest different to any other protest that people would seek to organise in the wake of the Thorndyke terror attack?
So this decision today is not protest agnostic. Any person can now lodge a Form 1 for the areas that have now been declared. I'll also point out that on Australia Day there is a March for Australia, which is being conducted outside the specified areas. So it is not about the First Nations protest.
What communication did police have with the Black Caucus and with the organisers of the March for Australia Day before you made this decision, and how did that factor into the decision?
We have significant and ongoing discussions with all protest organisers. That's a normal part of what we do. The role of the New South Wales Police is to ensure public safety, and we'll continue to do that. So we absolutely considered the motivation of the protest organisers, the likelihood that a protest would take part if there was no declaration, but then making sure that we balance that role between community safety and the right to protest.
Is it the case that the Black Caucus have satisfied what you need to know regarding there not being any heightened community tensions? If you're satisfied that the plans going ahead won't raise community tensions?
I can say that it's an annual protest, and it's one that we work very closely with organisers. You have seen in recent years that it's been incredibly peaceful, and that is because of the relationship we have with organisers. As I've said, the legislation that came in that allows for a public assembly restriction declaration is designed to take the tension out of the community. It's about trying to make sure community safety is paramount, and that's very much what we've done with organisers.
So, Commissioner, why does community tension, or the risk of community tension, stop as soon as you step foot in Hyde Park?
The risk of community tension does not. This is about getting the balance right. We will work with organisers. You'll know that since the first declaration was made back in December, we've had over 49 static protests. We have not stopped on free speech. We've encouraged people to come forward, but with the rights to protest comes the right to be responsible.
Commissioner explained what commissioners met with organisers of the January 26th rally this morning. And they say they were essentially at the start of that given an ultimatum that if they didn't change their route, that police would block the protest. Have police backed down on this?
No, we haven't. I'm unaware that that was ever said. As I've said, we work very closely with protest organisers. I'm satisfied that the route, and certainly the declaration that I've made this afternoon, is the best way to ensure community safety.
The Black Caucus Facebook event page for the Invasion Day rally notes that they stand in solidarity while, quote, the world watches multiple genocides unfold overseas. Do you think that there is an element of solidarity with Palestinian statehood and against Israel's military action in Gaza involved in the 26th January protest, and did you consider that?
That's not something I could answer. What I can say, as I said, the Black Caucus rally has been on every year for a large number of years. It is carried out for a specific reason and certainly is a specific issue. One of the concerns that I do need to consider, obviously, that other organisers and other interest groups will seek to join those rallies, and we'll work closely with organisers to make sure that community safety is first.
In terms of where you have kept the restriction in place, the declaration in place, is there a specific threat in those areas, or why have those areas been kept in place? Like, I guess the converse.
There's certainly no specific threat to the community. The reason for the eastern suburbs is very clear. That was the location of the terrorist incident itself. I think it's appropriate that we are respectful to the community out there. That community is still grieving. In terms of the northern part of the CBD, as I indicated, there are a number of events coming up over the next 14 days. One of the most major is Australia Day, and we expect tens of thousands of people to attend that location. It's important to ensure the community safety. We don't want conflict between general members of the community and members that are protesting. I'm able to say, sorry, that last Friday, we had to detain 4 people outside a protest outside the town hall because they were incensed about people protesting. It's really important that we focus on community safety. We want to deconflict where we can.
Commissioner, do you have a way of ensuring that other groups won't be hijacking or riding on the bandwagon of that protest which you deem to be okay for a minute?
I haven't deemed a protest to be okay. The protest is taken to be authorised when it's no longer within an area for restriction. We will work very closely with organisers. There will be a significant police presence. Because a protest is authorised does not mean that hate speech, intolerance and threat to the community will be taken. We'll take matters seriously if that occurs. We'll be working very closely with organisers but monitoring those protests.
Commissioner, these restrictions now apply to a carved part of the CBD, the eastern suburbs, and there's been an acknowledgement over the last 2 weeks that they don't prohibit static rallies, it's only extra legal protections when people want to seek to march. Are these rules, do they have any real function or effectiveness?
I think what we've seen over the past 4 weeks, both with the initial declaration and the extension, is that it's taken the heat out of the community. I think the fact that we haven't seen large-scale open protests, people marching through the streets of Sydney, has reduced the tension. The decision about the legislation is obviously not one for mine. The job of the police is to enforce the legislation. That's what we're doing, but with community at the forefront of it.
Commissioner, did see an incredibly large police presence at the Friday protest and also the Sunday protest. I believe people kind of said that there was a few hundred police officers at the Sunday protest, but there was only about 200 rallied there. One of the reasons cited for this effective ban was to save police resources. Has that actually happened? Has this actually made the police's job harder?
No, the primary reason obviously for the legislation was to ensure community safety. As I said, there were heightened tensions in the community, understandably. This was the most horrific terrorist attack in New South Wales. One of the challenges for police, but is a lot of these protesters are conducted, organised online. So we do not know how many people are looking to come until we get there, and I think it's appropriate for the community. The community want to be reassured. So we make sure there are sufficient police there to cover any eventuality.
What's your message to people who might seek to, or groups that might seek to hijack the rally against Australia Day on January 26th, or other purposes that might increase community tension, and what powers would New South Wales Police have to stop any potential protests if the form one is lodged for Hyde Park or another area where protests are allowed?
Probably a number of questions there. I'm happy to go through. We will take any action that actually disturbs the peace, threatens, intimidates, harasses or promotes hate speech seriously. We have sufficient legislation to take action about that. We won't tolerate that. That is what heightens tension within the community. As to anyone seeking to hijack one of those protests there, I'd say think again. This is not the time. I've been really clear. This is a time for calm. Community has been devastated by what happened on the 14th of December. This is about bringing people together. Australia Day itself is about Australians coming together. It's about acknowledging why we are a wonderful country, and it's about making sure that we get together and support each other.
Has the Police Minister ticked off on this new extension, and did she express a view about excising Hyde Park to allow 26 January protests?
So we have an acting police minister at the moment. Minister Scully is acting as the police minister. He has concurred to the declaration I've made. So yes, he concurs with the area that I have chosen to specify.
So are these people not allowed though? Can they still march to Victoria Park as per their plan, or they've got to stay? Because once you step out of Hyde Park, okay, but he's restricted zone again.
That's probably easier. Sorry, I don't have the map in front of me, but if I show you the map.
The map doesn't open.
Sorry. Effectively, once you get south of Liverpool Street, the restrictions do not apply. so a march can be facilitated to Victoria Park.
Okay.
Commissioner, do you accept that police had originally planned to compel the Australia Day rally to start at Belmore Park and go to Victoria Park, and that police have now created this map essentially to accommodate what the protesters said was what they were going to do anyway?
No, I don't. We regularly work with protest organisers. I've been really clear about that. My job and the job of the New South Wales Police is to ensure community safety, so we'll continue to work to do that.
Commissioner, are you aware of protests planned for February 7th around the arrival of the Israeli president, Herzog? And would they be likely to get authorisation?
We continue to monitor any intelligence that may be protest, particularly where that's going to impact on public safety. That would be outside the terms of this declaration, and I think it's important, as I did last time, to say that I will consider whether there is a need for a declaration on the circumstances at the time. Can I make that really clear to one of the questions before, but we will be monitoring the behaviour of those protests that occur over the next 14 days. And if it's such that it puts the community at risk, I will consider what the appropriate area is to make sure that we reduce that risk and keep the community safe.
Could you give us an idea of what the police presence will be on Monday for Australia Day around Hyde Park?
I certainly expect we'll have over 1,500 police in the Sydney metropolitan area. We'll have well and truly over 500 police that will manage, monitor those protests that take place to ensure their safety. But there'll be police that are able to be deployed from other parts of Sydney as well. We will have a significant policing presence. This is not just about keeping the community safe. I want the community to feel safe. I want the community to know that Sydney is a wonderful, safe place to come to. I want mums and dads to bring their kids into town. So we'll have a significant presence.
Has March for Australia submitted a Form 1 for their event?
Yes, they have.
And I know you committed about enforcing legislation. There being legislation about Nazi symbols and slogans. Will that be, obviously, will we be on high alert for that at that March for Australia protest?
Yeah, when I spoke before about hate speech, certainly displaying a Nazi symbol and those other matters that are prescribed as unlawful, we will be monitoring and will take action. We will not tolerate that type of behaviour. When I said there is a right to protest, there is a responsibility to do it peacefully, there's a responsibility to do it within the law.
And
Commissioner,
just on Thursday, can you just walk us through, will there be an increase in police presence for the National Day?
Yeah, I think that's to be expected. We'll certainly have a large presence. As you're aware, Operation Shelter has been operating since soon after the 14th of December. We have about 400 extra police shifts each day operating throughout the Sydney metropolitan area, predominantly in the eastern suburbs and CBD to keep the community safe. We will make sure that there is a significant presence so people can go about their business, go to a visual, go to a day of mourning and feel safe.
But so, Commissioner, under these new rules, it means that lawful pro-Palestine protests can be held as long as they're in Hyde Park.
That's correct. If they lodge a Form 1, and provided there are no grounds to oppose that, it will be taken to be authorised. But can I say, lawful protests or lawful assemblies have been able to be undertaken despite the fact of this declaration. Where a protest is static, where a protest complies with the legislation, it has taken place. The Palestinian Action Group and other groups have protested statically and within the legislation since the 14th of December.
I've got two questions. One, two more questions. Where is the March for Australia rally set to take place?
From Prince Alfred Park to Moore Park.
And a couple of weeks, maybe a week or so ago, there was an individual who was detained after wearing a shirt that had globalising flag on it, later released without charge. Are police planning to do a similar thing with anyone who uses that phrase or displays that phrase on Monday and going forward?
We'll work very closely with our legal officers. If an offence is created, we'll take action against it. I think I've made that really clear. This is not a time to misbehave. This is not a time to step outside the legislation. We'll take appropriate action if required. Thanks, ladies and gents.